Okay, Roger, Mudfossil University. Today, thinking that the shock of mud fossils hopefully has worn off a little bit and everybody can sort of settle down and start to think about rationally and study this, because it's shocking. It's all of those things, I mean, by any standard, but at some point you have to look at this in a scientific sort of way and just try to understand what happened here, because it's very, very confusing. This is what I called a Notoe. Now, they come in all kinds of different varieties and forms, and this one here is another Notoe, one of our size. This is obviously quite large. Now, when I say it's Notoes, they have the toes, but they're broken off. There was one here, one here, one here. That was all one big thing similar to this one here at one point. That is not a shoe or anything. There's toes inside of these. Now, I have a friend that has a very, very active Notoe site. And these are hominids. There was a leg came straight up off of here, the tibia. The fibia was attached here, and if you can see that, I don't know if you can see there, you can see actually the bone pattern that went down in there, and that white sort of looking stuff here, and you can see a little pinky looking stuff. That's where the blood runs out of the bone, and that is the pattern of the blood here too, in the front. Just like on your foot, it's like a flip-flop. That's what it is. And that is the pattern of the bone right there. And this is where the fibia attaches. It's just bolted to the bone and flops around, and then they just fall off. And they literally all do. And you end up with this flat spot here. But other than that, that was literally somebody's foot at one time. And this underneath, believe it or not, had a pad that came down around like this, just like that. Huge, huge pads. And the one Kim has, we can actually see where they bolted the pads up. I mean, they're literally manufactured. I'm telling you, wait, you see what you think, but that's my assessment. Now, before we go any further, I got the microscope fired up. I want to show you what the fabric of these things looks like, because if you get one of these little tiny microscopes, then you're going to be able to say, this is skin, this is that, this is like, this is pleura from a lung. Now, this was DNA certified, and that's pleura. And that's a depression of the heart in the back. This is a left lung, and that's where the little tip invests the lung in, and that's the pattern of the lobes of the lung. This is a bone, quite obviously a bone, and that is the socket that the ligament ball goes into, and then another ball hangs off here, another bone attaches, and they move together, and they can still flop around and do all these things. But that attachment, ball to ball, is like unbelievably strong. And the bones completely disintegrate, as in the mud fossil conditions. They transition, they don't disintegrate unless they are like the craniums, the skulls. They disintegrate. You see, you find brains laying around. This guy's brain will be laying around somewhere. Let me show you a brain. All right, I don't mean to say all the brains are going to fall out like this, but this is the brain from some giant. That's the eyeball, and it didn't. What happens is the bone disintegrates in salt waters, because this bone encapsulated the brain. The bone went away. If the bone was inside legs and things like that, and inside of things like this in bones, they transition into that black looking stuff, which is source rock. And it turns into hydrocarbons, methanes, and oils. All right? And that's how that works. Now, when the bone is on the outside, it disintegrates and it leaves the brain. Okay, this is a brain, and it was originally found like this. I can't remember who sent me these pictures, and I worked with her, and I just lost the name. This goes back a while, but that's the sinus membrane up in under your nose, and that's the nasal cavities, and that's the tip of the tongue, or the back tip of the tongue. That's the esophagus, and see these little layers? We're built in layers. I don't know what to tell you why that happens, but it's just, and it's every bit of your body is built in little layers. Okay, before we start, somebody sent me some pictures like this today and asked me what they thought this pattern was, and that is grip skin. That's off the bottom of, I think, of a big toe, actually. Now, I believe it's on, well, I know it's in the same thing in your fingers because I have one here. Well, I have a lot of them that have the exact same pattern. That is the grip skin. It's some kind of really strong, tough fibers. Now, let's forget about that now. Now, let's talk about these things here that I was just discussing. Now, they're in the dark because I'm going to put them in a microscope, and we're going to look at them right now. So let's see what we got here. This is the Notoe foot, which was my Notoe foot. Okay. Now, what do we see here? If I can focus it in. All right, that's the kind of stuff you're going to see. That is the fabric of life. It's the fabric of life. This whole thing is covered with that. Now, there'll be places where it's dense or black because that is area where there's more little blood vessels. Here's right down where the no-toes are. You see this? This is right where the toes are underneath because it's broken open. You can see some red blood there. That's right the tip of the toes. That's the tip of the toes. And if I rock it around, remember, I go all the way around, that is also toe material. All right, and then as I go down a little bit further, it goes back down to the fabric, which wraps it up. Now, this is a giant fingertip. All right, this fingertip, DNA certified, human, giant, and you can see how. Well, I mean, it's just obvious what it is. It's all the blood vessels and everything. You go down inside these little blood vessels. If you get down inside of them, you can actually see where they bleed down in. You see the two little holes up there? See down, way down inside here? This is how you service your body with blood. Huh? All right, now that's a giant fingertip from a hand, and I have the whole hand almost. Well, I have actually, I think the whole creature's out there. There's other bones coming out of the ground. And that's this fingertip right here. That one right there. Oops. I don't know if that's visible. Yeah, there we go. That one right there. And that was CAT scanned and the whole shooting match. So, and you see this back here? That was, well, CAT scanned and DNA certified. And that is another human thing. And look up here. There we go. Same stuff. Only it's a little more pronounced because it's what they call plural. So this is dense. This is on the foot. This is the skin of the foot. Same structure, just not quite as thick. This is from that giant fingertip. Now that's from the top of the fingertip. That's actually underneath where the nail would be. This is from the bottom of the fingertip. And you see all those little black dots and stuff? Very tough stuff. It gives it that's what separates you from the environment. And what else I got? Okay, and this is that bone. Let me see if I can see it. That's that bone we talked about before. Same stuff. See little blood vessel holes. The same fabric. It's not hard to miss. I mean, it's not easy. Wait a minute. It's hard to miss. You see that? That's where blood passes through the fabric of your skin, and in this case, this is what they call tunica, which wraps around the bones. Here's one, here's a toe. And they eventually break down to this material. You see? Remember before you saw it was sort of like this? Now it's starting to get real shiny and crystally. And eventually, you see, that's the callus on the toe. Look at that, isn't that something? All right, see this stuff? And now as it continues to transition, you get little spots that'll turn into gems and so forth, and metals, like up here. See, this is the top of the toe. See that? How cool that is? You see, it's shiny, and I got one over here somewhere. Oh, I can't find it now, but I got them in every single state of change, and Kim, you know, I worked with all of them, and they all have little microscopes, and they've all looked at this and that for me, and Kim has a absolutely unbelievable sight, and nobody seems to have any interest whatsoever. Hard to understand, but we're going to look over here. We got interest. Okay, we talked about the fabric. I think I've gone through the fabric. That's the fabric of the foot that I have here. If I come down closer to the front, it gets more tough, and if I go right to where the no toes were, you see this? This is all organic because it's lifted off. Where it's still covered, it looks like this. All right? But it's a very obvious organic pattern. So this is this Notoe foot that I showed you here. Now, this is a lung. You see that? That's coating the lung. This is DNA certified lung. So it has a similar look, only it's much more pronounced. It's called pleura. This is on a giant fingertip, also DNA certified, and that is the same fabric. It comes in different varieties. Again, look how coarse that is. And that's coating a lung. That's what they call pleura. This is coating a foot. You see what it is? It's a fabric, a nice, good fabric that gives you good strength. Hold on. Okay, this is Tish Egerton's site. Now, here's what happened. Her husband Joe saw some of my videos, and I made the claim, you go out in 15 minutes and find a mud fossil. There's absolutely no question, because every rock you pick up is a mud fossil, whether you know it or not. Now, so, and Tish does a fossil, crystals. So I go out and I take a look, and within 15 minutes, I'm not kidding you, she comes across this site here. Now, what is this? There was a foot right in here. She lifted it out of here. The water's still muddy. She just pulled it out of there. And look what she found. That not only a foot, which will I show you uno momento, that's a bone. That is a bone. There's bones all over this thing, laying everywhere, and that's just where the foot is. She found hip and socket bones. She found organs. She found complete legs. All right, so now Tish starts to pull feet out of there. Now, I think this was the one that was where she pulled it out of the mud. But she found a bunch of them. This one, the toes are just missing. They're like little sausages that stick out under the skin. She's found just absolutely amazing things. Now, I found mine long ago, and there was, well, you see this right here. This is it. And it's sealed up on the top. Now, some of them come actually opened up here. Some of them, they're just all different types. I don't know what to say about it, whether they were in the construction phase, like they had the, the Mustang, and then they had the, some other model. I don't know what to say. But she found so many marvelous things. Alright, this one's mine, just showing it from a different bunch of angles. And these are different Notoes sent in to me around the world. Of course, that's Tish's that came from Australia. And this creature was all of those stones. And that is a foot. And that's the little heel, what they call a calcaneal. Well, it's just it's the heel bone. Now, there's another one there. This they cleared this and put up development there or something, the guy told me. But and that one came out of California. That has the toes eroded out of it. But they come in such a variety of ways. Alright, now I did work with Tish extensively on this. And she did a bunch of videos, and she's got a microscope. She did the microscopic shots. Now, this is, of course, one of her feet there, and this is the eroded ones. Now, these are very, very interesting. Now, if you can see this, the heel part, that round ball and that strap, is this round ball and that strap. And that is the saddle right up here where the bone sits, right up above, just as that saddle on that one. Now, I'm going to go in a little deeper. I have some, I know I have a bunch of videos about this. And it shows the actual, this is a torsion spring. When the toes went out to the front this way. When that lifts up, it curls this way. When it curls this way, it compresses up against here. And there's actually some, what they call gummite, this gummite stuff. It's a rubber detent up here. As that curls up, it pulls this around into that void, and there's springs and latches here and here. So it goes here, and then it continues up and goes here, and when it comes back down the same way, it's just like our tendons, only we have them by straps. These had springs. And those are springs on little pins. And she has a bunch of them. I'm show you one that has a whole leg attached and everything. How's that? Those are the springs. That's the heel going straight up the leg. That is exactly identical to the tendinous, strappy flaps that make up the structure of the legs in us. We don't have these pins, we don't have springs, we have little like cables that come down, and they attach with a whole batch of little balls in spots like this right here, which is what they call an apical tuft. You see all these little holes? And that ball right there is one. They come down the straps, and then they have all these little holes, and the balls go in there, and that's what makes you be able to do this. These had a different situation. I'm going to show you in a leg that exact same structure. Not hard to see. That is tendon. Same thing in the foot that Tish has. However, instead of having those little curly Q things like on the foot she has, we have cables, and they just run across little pivot points. Okay, I just ran into this, and Kim, who has the Naga head, also has this. And she was wondering what this is. It almost looks like it's a guy's eyeballs and a head or something, but it's not, Kim. I figured out what it is. That is a ligament ball. And that ligament ball fits right in to a cavity like this. And if you could see all these little tiny holes in there, that's what these little bumps stick into. And these things, they can open up like this inside that socket. And they get in there, and then they lock in there like, there's no way to, I mean, it must be able to float or something and still stay just as solid as, absolutely incredible how strong these attachments are from bone to bone. Absolutely, there's nothing can break them. Krishna's butterball is one of these in the ground and above a chunk of meat like this. And it's sticking up off the ground. The ground is here, and it's sticking up just like this. It's just like this, nothing holding it in the air. And they took 12 elephants, they couldn't knock it over. Once that attachment is embedded from one to the other in the ground here, you can have a pinpoint that thing will sit on, and it can sit way over here and look like it's just got to fall, and it will never fall. Praveen from the boy, it's the Travel Channel there, Phenomenal Travels, I believe is what it's called. Praveen was crawling up under, in between one of these rocks that was on top of another rock, and he could just barely squeak in there, and he was in about 30 feet, and the thing was just sitting on a pinpoint like this. So those things are tough. And guess what one of those is made out of? It's a ball, it looks just like this, and another littler ball looks just like this. Right next to each other, just like that. And guess what that is? Look up Ultima Thule. Now, just so you know, you should come up here and see. This is Kim's Naga head. That's certainly a head, no question whatsoever. I did the autopsy on it. I worked with Kim extensively, and I showed all the work we did in the video here. So that is a Naga head. And then there's some really interesting temples over in India. It's all part of this Dragon's Seal richest temple in history, still unopened. Now, so that's Kim's discovery. All right. Tish has the Notoes. And there's a ton of people have the Notoes. I have them. They're all over. So it's time to start seeing what is this all about. What's it about? She's got the most active site that I could possibly imagine. So if you want to get a hold of her, get a hold of me, I'll get a hold of her. And maybe you can work something out with her. But it's crazy for all of these discoveries just to be just ignored by the people that say they're looking for everything. Well, we're looking for this, we're looking for that. Well, don't find it, because they're not interested in that part of it.